You know, I don't know how to say it, but I think regular show should not have worked out as well as it did. I mean, really think about it. In a time right after the CN Real era, when other insanely popular shows came out in the rebirth like Adventure Time, a fantastical and wacky world any kid would love to be in, or Gumball that exaggerates life as a kid in an over-the-top town, regular show kinda sticks out. I mean, the premise is pretty much two 20-year-olds work at a minimum wage job and try to get out doing work and not get fired. It deals with so much stuff that no kid is really going to relate to or understand, not to mention how drenched in the 90s it was. But luckily the show had two things to its advantage. One, the characters were still so bombastic and filled with personality that they couldn't be boring and were always fun to see in how they interacted and oftentimes were just as immature as the target audience. Not to mention their design's so weird and eye-catching despite the fact that out of a few animations and visual gags, they're exactly like humans anyway and it's kinda pointless. But man is it eye-catching and unique. And second, while every episode starts out normal enough, the plot would just get crazier and crazier until suddenly it went all out in a completely insane over-the-top climax. And that's a formula they really get the most out of, and it's what I and so many other people love about the show. Like, you never know what to expect in an episode, and it certainly would get any kid's attention. Like, no kid's gonna understand what the show meant that the park need to get an accountant to file their taxes so the government doesn't audit the park. But add in Rigby's refusal to accept his popular brother and a crazy climax where the park literally starts to disappear unless they get done to finish the taxes, then you get a good episode. And the episodes keep that up, it's so enjoyable. Like Mordecai and Rigby trying to get out of setting up a birthday party by sneaking out playing arcade games, only to accidentally bring a character to life that can destroy the planet, and have to bring their own player to life to defeat it. It's so hard not to love the show for it. Also to mention the great comedy and jokes that felt pretty risque for the channel. Like, I want to be serious, did this show feel very adult to you as a kid and made you feel grown up watching it? I want to know. Like, at some pointless swearing, sex, and gore, and it fit right in on Adult Swim.
Your parents probably won't let you watch this show, but have you seen this one?
But the show, for the most part, did keep this quality in its writing and humor throughout its seasons. Well, if you disregard the Mordecai romance plots, which are the objective worst parts of the show, and it's no wonder why it became such a hit on the network. Though in regards to the writing, I'd say it didn't have too much in terms of character development and story through most of it, especially compared to something like Adventure Time. Now, that's not entirely true. There are some good episodes of development and insight to the character, especially with things like Skip's story, but only really the later seasons seem to really try and develop and evolve the characters and tell complex storylines. I mean, the last season was practically all a huge story that went freaking interstellar and had so much build-up. But I'd say for the most part, the characters didn't evolve or give more of themselves outside of the kind of stereotypical roles they're given. Except for one, really. And that's Benson. It's weird because I'm sure a lot of people consider him an angry manager stereotype. A grumpy guy who's there to yell at heroes for not getting their job done right, and a person who everyone hates in the workplace. But I'd argue that Benson really isn't just a manager stereotype, and has multiple layers and nuances to his life that make up who he is, and is a lot less of that stereotype than you would think. And it makes him maybe the most emotionally developed, compelling, and relatable character in this anything but regular show. He might be the most real character in it. And I want to get into it. I want to talk about how Benson Dunwoody is regular show's most underrated character. Yeah, but he didn't even know that was his last name. Now, I'm sure people who watched the regular show as a kid and then didn't keep up would definitely think he's pretty one note. Just the angry, grumpy management who doesn't get it when the heroes want to have fun and doesn't respect them at all, is be a huge stick in the mud and plot antagonist. Honestly not too different from, say, a character like Squidward. But to me personally, I never actually thought that of Benson. I thought he was in the right most of the time, even as a kid. Granted, I was like 11 or something when the show came out. I was on his side most of the time. I was raised with the ideals of hard work, and seeing Mordecai and Rigby constantly try to weasel out of it with Benson rightfully upset that they're not doing their job, being much more willing to side with him in most episodes. Which is what I consider to be the biggest case against Benson being treated as just an angry manager. Mordecai and Rigby almost always start the conflict. They are given a task and either completely mess it up or try to get out of it in some way, which makes Benson blow up at them for not doing their jobs. Benson is the park manager, and it's his job to make sure all the jobs are being done and done right, but the duo pretty much never actually do that. He doesn't hate Mordecai and Rigby just because, or because he's some overbearing and unreasonable boss. He hates them because they're slackers who make his life harder. It's really evident when he rarely has a problem with any of the other park employees because they're so much more dependable than the duo. Even Muscle Man and High Five, who are so much like the duo and are immature party animals, But there is an episode dedicated to showing why Benson trusts them much more, showing that he keeps Benson updated about his escapades and making sure that at the end they'll always deliver. Weird how Mordecai and Rigby never actually use what they've learned after to get more on Benson's good side, but then I guess we wouldn't have a show. But Muscle Man does prove there is a way that Mordecai and Rigby could be themselves and still get on Benson's good side. It's just they don't actually do it. So Benson's attitude and anger isn't that he's a bad or unreasonable boss, it's that our duo are bad and unreasonable employees and he rightfully blows up at them. I have noticed some changes about Benson's attitude throughout the seasons. In Season 1, the characters really didn't actually grow and were largely a what you see is what you get case. Though Benson is still written as notably pretty grumpy and irritable in it. Like his attitude is much more in line with a character like Squidward of I really don't want to be here and I don't like my job. Like seriously, that's that brow for like the entirety of the season. I think like the one time in the season he didn't wasn't Meet Your Maker when he was getting ready for the park barbecue and got really excited for it. Side note, but God, Benson didn't deserve the crap he got in that episode. Like he was excited for this thing, he was throwing a party for all the workers, even splurged to get some deluxe international hot dogs just for it. But Rigby burned them off there, specifically being told not to grill it, and then nearly killed him and Mordecai, wanting to get replacement dogs that are evil and tried to eat them. Where Rigby is barely able to defeat them by spraying them with mustard and getting them to eat themselves. And when confronted with what he did, he then lies his ass off and blames Benson, saying they were actually his deluxe hot dogs that went bad, as everyone now blames him for it, as he just tries to fix it now. But like he did literally nothing to deserve it. He went out of his way to make a good time for everyone out of his own pocket, only for Rigby to mess it all up and blame him for it. No wonder why he's on the villains wiki. Like, I really wish the scene ended like,
well, I guess the barbecue's ruined now thanks to Benson. And I'll be all like...
Also, the head evil hot dog was voiced by Tim Curry. Yeah, that Tim Curry, the legendary actor playing a cannibalistic hot dog that comes out of nowhere.
This is simply revenge for all our fallen brother and sister hot dogs massacred by the hand of your barbecue.
You know what? This might have been a weirder random Tim Curry appearance than stand-up comedian Big Brother from the Johnny Bravo video. I don't want to jinx it, but I don't think there's gonna be anything to top this. The show slowly did have Benson lighten more up and show more layers and complexity, but not entirely abandon the character set, which did make him a much more likable character. But it is entirely evident even from the start of the show that most of what made Benson seem like a jerk comes purely from his annoyance and rage at Mordecai and Rigby. There's even an episode in Season 2, Appreciation Day, where he holds a ceremony giving appreciation plaques to all the employees for their achievements, but of course they don't give any respect to the duo since they haven't done anything. Then the two don't actually try to do anything about that and just instead write in the park records that they're super hard workers, which in regular show fashion makes it happen in reality. It also forces the two to do much harder work, which they think bites, but it does result in Benson being very happy with the two and gives them appreciation plaques. Again, if they actually put in the work, then Benson would actually appreciate them and like them. And to a lesser extent in Grave Sights, where Benson wants to raise money through an event and agree that Mordecai and Rigby's idea of a scary movie night would be great, and when it works he gladly gives them their reward of the paid day off. Again, all Mordecai and Rigby have to do is be better workers and contribute more to the park effort, and Benson would have no problem with them. Benson is surprisingly reasonable as a boss, and I guarantee you a lot of people watching this would wish he was their boss instead of their real one. So even from the start, the idea that Benson is just an unreasonable and grumpy manager who goes out of his way to hate Mordecai and Rigby just isn't true. He's very reasonable, he tries to be a good boss. He may be a bit of a stick in the mud, but if you do your job right, he'll have no problem with you and gives his appreciation out multiple times. And it's even shown in Season 2 that he's probably so aggravated on them doing a good job because the owner of the park, Mr. Mailer, will blame him for any problems. And unlike Benson, he's far less reasonable and more of the angry boss stereotype. So he has a lot of pressure to keep things running smoothly. It's just hard with the slacker brigade constantly messing him up. So Benson is not just a jerk manager at all. Hell, he's such a good manager that he was the one getting the entire CN cast ready for the Hall of Game Awards. Actually, come to think about it, is this bumper the closest thing we ever got to a 2010s era CN City? God, I wish we got more! But that's not the only thing that makes him, in my eyes, the show's most underrated character. I want to get into more of his developments across the show. I'd really argue that Benson might be the show's most well-developed and deepest character. Even more than Skips, I'll say it. Skips' lore is one of regular show's most built-up mysteries. But honestly, when we find out about it, it was kind of underwhelming despite the build-up. Yeah, I'll say it. Benson had more of a slow burn effect where it made you understand a lot more of his character. As in Season 1, he really had no development outside of being a grouchy manager. But Season 2 does have more elements of himself shown throughout the episodes. I already mentioned Appreciation Day, but I should go more into Benson Be Gone, where after Mordecai and Rigby mess up in front of Mr. Maylard, Benson gets demoted as they hire a new manager, Susan. But Benson's upset and has trouble with the new workload as the duo invite him to take a break to refresh himself. Which of course he's against since it goes against his nature, but relents as he's relaxed in a montage where Benson eventually starts enjoying himself, and it's a great irony. They hope he feels refreshed enough to work, but Benson realizes he's wasting his time stressing with work and just should stop as the two try to convince him not to. It's so weird to see this inverse as a duo being the responsible and reasonable ones. It's a neat situation for Benson that's pretty quick for inverting his character. But after meeting with the previous manager, Leon, who also quit his job and became homeless and inadvertently convinces Benson to get his job back. But in regular show fashion, Susan's actually a demon and Benson helps to defeat them. Though it does seem like he has a new appreciation for his job and Mordecai and Rigby's role in it. Alrighty, pretty good insight and development. Then there's This Is My Jam, where Rigby accidentally brings a song stuck in his head to life and have to make an even catchier song to defeat it. But they can't defeat it until Benson comes up seemingly to get mad at them, just to come with a pair of drums saying they need to have a good beat, and then makes a song so good it kills the Summertime song. And Benson doesn't play a larger history to himself on how he got to play the drums, which we will see later. Though there's also First Day, the technical pilot of the show, which does show Benson right as they met as grouchy, so I guess he either already had the characterization or was just added to show off his character for the pilot. At least he was still mostly reasonable until Mordecai and Rigby's first major mess up. But Season 3 is where there's the biggest change up and development in stick hockey, where Benson sees the duo slacking off playing stick hockey and is angry at them playing his old game he threw out, but agrees they can play it if they do their job and clean the park, which the two actually do. But Benson threw it out anyway since he couldn't trust them, pissing off the two and even Skips and Pops, who agree he shouldn't have broken his promise. But Benson says it's just a waste of time and he did them a favor by getting rid of it, but the two are very mad that they lied to him as they go on their own to find it. But it turns out they got into a stick hockey death game with this Mortal Kombat reject, and are being beaten senseless and about to be executed, until Benson arrives to finish their game for them, initiating a flashback showing Benson was a part of this underground stick hockey tournament with his own apprentice Dave, until Chung freaking decapitated and killed them. That's gotta be a violation.
Street rules, man.
And Benson gave up on the game after that, but now it's the fight to escape. As they play the stick hockey death match, as Benson is shown to be a complete master at it in a scene that goes way too hard, honestly. Like, come on, the music alone. As Benson is able to fight through Chung's tricks to secure a victory and get the tail back for the duo. It's actually one of my favorite parts about Benson, especially in episodes like this, where Benson always seems like the manager stick in the mud, but out of nowhere he has master skills and is able to save the day like with This Is My Jam, but much more in the forefront. I love it. Benson actually apologizes and said he was so hard on them with the game because he didn't want to see them waste their life on a stupid game like he did. But after nearly dying because of it, the duo don't even want it anymore. I think this is Regular Show's first real step to evolving its characters more, showing Benson's attitude change and growth to it, while also showing off his past and what affected him, and want to help Mordecai and Rigby not fall into the same trap as he did. This is a thing that kinda carries over to other episodes. A bit important one of Benson's most notable episode, Think Positive.
But the hose!
Oh, what? It's too hard to get the hose?
Where Pops would fire Benson if he yells at Mordecai and Rigby, as they continually piss him off as his anger grows more and more and he can't let it out. He tries to find ways to get around his anger, but nothing works, as Mordecai and Rigby practically do nothing but make it worse. Like, I gotta admit, Benson has more self-control than I would, because I would be all
78, 79, 80, 81, 90, 91, 92.
Not gonna yell.
Oh yeah!
Sweet!
We also see that Benson's anger comes largely from his family telling him he has to yell to get what he wants and to get over his own insecurities. And his anger builds to the point where he literally combusts, acting like a star, to the point where I figure Alfred Molina would show up.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Since Pops won't let him yell, he has to contain it all as it grows so much it's destroying the park, so Pops forces him to let it all out.
Responsibility responsibility, some pride in doing a job well done. But you wouldn't know it's not well done if you paid for.
But luckily that catharsis did the trick, as Pop suggests that Benson try to be less angry at the two. Which kinda did happen, as Benson notably becomes less angry and grumpy in the later seasons. But it's a great episode going through the anger part of Benson, even some of his justification, since in his rant, he said that he was just trying to teach the two some responsibility and pride in their work, which again is in like the previous episode. But the episode also speaks to me as someone who does struggle a lot with anger, that it feels so bad that your emotions feel like they have a death grip on you, and you can't think of anything else, as it continually festers inside of you, and all the advice you get from people and online just feels so worthless and shallow. This regards how you feel to hide it under a think positive mentality. But there's one everyone goes to that they say changed their perception of Benson: Busted Cart, where Mordecai and Rigby break the golf cart in front of Mr. Maylard, will fire Benson as he goes to the dealership before the warranty expires. But of course Mordecai and Rigby tag along uninvited since they feel guilty over the whole thing. And after accidentally messing up, they ask why do they hate him, which is our first genuine insight between them. He doesn't actually hate them, but the things they do. And yeah, it's really great to see that aspect of him brought to the forefront and addressed when it was relevant to previous episodes. And they actually bond for a bit. It's really great to see them get closer, even to the point where he trusts the two to take over driving that night. But Mordecai and Rigby, being themselves, stop at a random roadside arcade in the middle of nowhere. You know, this feels like some sort of supernatural trap, but no, apparently it's a legit arcade the two spend all night in, where Benson wakes up and forces them out. God, they were in there for like 8 hours straight. Maybe it was the Lotus Eaters or something. Where Benson goes out on them that they once again ruined his life with their negligence in his most famous moment.
You two gonna learn that your actions have consequences. Consequences that affect other people.
And it gets real. Like, really too real.
I'm about to lose my job. Because if I lose my job, I have nothing. Do you hear me? I have nothing!
Of course, Mordecai and Rigby feel like for what they did, and try to make it better going through Highway 13, the most dangerous highway in the world, for our action climax that gets to the dealership at the last second. And this is one of Benson's biggest moments for good reason, where he completely breaks down and shows his real insecurities and how much his job means to him, which also makes Think Positive more important since we know how he forced himself to keep together for it. It really shows how Benson's not doing this out of malice, but because of necessity, and how stressed he really is through all of it. This is a great and relatable insight that you rarely see in the show. And also the rest of the episode also more depth of Benson also helped his relationship with the duo. Benson has become a lot more than just the angry boss, and it shows why and how he's like that. And that he's not a bad person. He's just pushed so often that because he has to be the responsible one, and tries to get the duo to also be responsible but get frustrated when they continually refuse.
I know you don't mean them, but I'm your boss, and it's my job to push you to do better.
Benson really goes out of his way a lot to try and be the responsible one, and also has a kind of mentor feel to him, legit just trying to give mature insight and responsibility to them. Like when Mordecai thinks Margaret got married to someone else and fell to depression. He said he had no right to feel sorry for himself when he didn't have the courage to actually ask her out, and he should finally work up the nerve to at least finalize this so we can move on.
You should just tell Margaret how you feel.
You're right. Thanks, Skips.
What?
Wow, what an asshole.
Though I should also talk about some of Benson's bad attributes and moments to really make it fair. And a lot of the time, these help to sell the negative portrayal of his character, but I'll try to justify them. Okay, and peeps, yeah, I did sign the contract that made Terraria boss watch them for all eternity, but that was only because Mordecai and Rigby got out of every lower monitoring system since they refused to do their job, and at least tried to ask peeps to get out of the contract.
Wow, I can't believe they've been working for 3 hours. They deserve an award! Good idea. Babies are still good. Ooh, got coupons! What's the...
And there was a notably terrible moment in Excellent, where Rigby got into a coma and Benson took as the opportunity to berate Mordecai for slacking and that he deserved it.
Well, I hope you've learned something from all this.
What?
Maybe if you'd been working like you were supposed to, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, you know what? He deserved that. Like, you're technically right, but read the room, man. Granted, he also made it worse after.
This has nothing to do with work. He just wanted the hat.
And look where it got him. Your friend over there is only gonna get you into trouble.
Look, I'll defend you, man, but that's pretty uncalled for. Benson does redeem himself later by apologizing and said what he did was wrong. He even helped Mordecai by giving him a strategy by an ex-park employee to win the challenge and get the hat to save Rigby, and joined in training Mordecai to do it, and in one of my favorite moments got all the park members to fight the staff who were stopping him from winning it. So yeah, what Benson did was completely uncalled for, but he did apologize and more than made up for it in the episode. But there's probably his most infamous move in Best Burgers in the World, where he forbids the two from getting the ultimatum burger, which is once in a lifetime, because they didn't do their work in a week, so the two pretty much sneak out to order some, just to have to fight their clones, yeah, regular show, but then find out that Benson, out of spite for not doing their work and sneaking off, ate both their burgers so they can never have it. Yeah, that was pretty bad, Benson. Like, okay, he is somewhat justified since Mordecai and Rigby put off a week of work, hence why he's not letting them weasel out of it again, but he did ruin a once-in-a-lifetime event for them out of spite, so yeah, jerk move, dude. In fact, I'm sure a later episode was a response to this since he tried to pull that again and eat the two's death sandwich, only to of course nearly die from it.
Death sandwich? Why would you buy something that kills people?
Why would you eat somebody's sandwich?
So even in his worst moments, he's still always pushed to get there. He doesn't try to be a jerk unless he's pushed to that level thanks to Mordecai and Rigby's antics. But another aspect about Benson is kind of his patheticness. As he said before, he only has his job, and that's the thing he values most in his life, and that's just being the park manager. That alone would be enough to make him feel pathetic, but even there he's constantly put down by Mr. Mailer when he's trying his best and Gene, the rival park owner. He's put down by everything, so it's really no wonder how he's the way he is. Even his love life is known to be pretty pathetic. He tries to get with his neighbor Audrey with a few episodes dedicated to it, only for him to break up off screen and later show he's had a full line of ex-girlfriends who dumped him, repeatedly going to Dump Town. Dude might even rival Mordecai for failed relationships. Might.
You got a real loose grip, Mordecai! Explains why you can't hold on to a relationship!
His gumballs might as well be blue balls. But at least he did get one solid and lasting relationship with Pam near the end of the series. Even if they did technically break up in space and he got thirsted over by a living rock because this is the peak male performance. But the show also does allow Benson to rise above his perceived patheticness and get really shining moments. Notably, in 150-piece Kit, where we finally learned about Benson's drummer history, where he was a drummer in the band Heir to the Throne, a major band, and performed the legendary 150-piece drum solo, but got kicked out and forgotten, with his legendary achievement now being said to be done with a robot. And no one really believed he did it, nor has his back, and he's gonna perform it in the concert. The one part I do love is that when Mordecai and Rigby see the band try and sabotage Benson, they immediately throw out their respect for them, how to prove them wrong. I love it. As Benson's on stage is going to prove to the world that he did and can play the solo.
Years ago, something was taken from me. Now, I stand before you to reclaim it.
And he goes all out playing 150 different instruments in a row in one solo as the band and robot try to sabotage him, predicting the current AI takeover hellscape we now live in. Benson got so into it his skeleton literally gets on fire. But he did it and reclaimed his glory in front of everyone. I love it so much, seeing Benson as, again, this pathetic underdog rise to the challenge and making a world record and reclaiming his lost glory. It's so cool to see. A personal favorite is Fool Me Twice, where Benson accidentally gets transported with the duo to a Japanese game show and has to actually complete the course or else they'll get killed. But Benson actually gets determined to finish and win it, blazing through the challenges as Mordecai and Rigby, who were so excited to be on it, get beaten continuously and are willing to give up, and Benson's the one who has to push them to continue. Even being the one to save the day against the Mad TV host goes all One Piece on them. Unfortunately, as much as you want the new high-tech clipboard, the two vote for Space Camp. Which, come on, Benson was the one who did virtually all the work. He earned that clipboard. At least he had a good time regardless.
Yeah, but
I'm having the time of my life!
please help us.
I love it so much. Benson again being the stick in the mud who doesn't agree to the duo's antics and adamantly against it from the start.
We weren't even trying to fool you!
But I thought you were.
This makes no sense!
Only to be the one who takes charge and saves the day unexpectedly. It's one of the best uses of Benson that can only be had with how he's built up during the show and subverting his assumed role. Or another in Benson's Suit, where a billionaire commissions a superpowered suit to gain unparalleled respect that runs away and gets in the hands of Benson, who feels bad that he gets no respect and is walked over by so many people, putting it on and instantly getting that attention and respect he deserves. And even Suit likes Benson, talking to him that he's happy Benson legitimately cares about him and would prefer being used by him than as an instrument of evil. But Rich Steves comes back with a personal army to take the Suit back, as Benson with the Suit literally takes on the entire army by himself, fueled by his rage and determination. It's so damn cool, like look at this!
That all you got?
It's such another great underdog moment for Benson that really works so well because of how much he's underappreciated and respected. Like really, Benson one of the few characters who, when this happened, really incites that feeling except for maybe Rigby. Even if Benson couldn't keep the Suit, he would continually be a target.
You didn't need me to earn respect, Benson. All you needed to learn was to take control of your life and respect yourself.
Rest in peace to the Dream Team.
Goodbye, Suit. Goodbye, Benson.
But Benson isn't entirely unappreciated. The park, even Mordecai and Rigby have shown their appreciation and love for Benson as a boss and as a person, which really shows how good of a boss he actually is. Even with the titular World's Best Boss, where all the crew are for getting Benson an appreciation gift which amounts to a World's Best Boss mug. Even if they actually have to fight the World's Best Boss to claim it.
What? But he's not really the world's best boss. He's an okay boss, not the best boss. That's the joke.
Shut up, Rigby. You'd be unemployed with literally any other boss. You love how he keeps the mug after. Or in the Parky Awards, where he was turned down for a Parky Award from Gene, who pretty much rubs in his face, only for the employees to make him their own Parky Award and let him give his speech, and it's so damn heartwarming. And then there's a surprising episode of The Lunch Club that has Benson and Rigby together, which is a dynamic that really hasn't been seen before. Where after Rigby messes up Mr. Mallard's party, he forces the two to stay in a room and wants to resign by the end of the day, as both refuse. Let's be honest, Rigby should definitely be the one. He's had it coming and Benson did literally nothing wrong here.
Didn't you hear? Maylard said it was your fault. 'Cause you mismanaged me.
But they both end up bonding by the course of it in a very surprising way, talking about their insecurities, wants, and end up relating to each other way more than they'd expect, like their familial issues, and how they end up the way that they are. It's a really fascinating insight, even gaining a mutual respect.
I don't even understand half the reasons I do the things I do. I'm expected to be a clown, so I'm a clown. But clowns cry too, man.
Here lies some uptight park manager.
Don't say that. You're more than that.
Thanks, man.
With Rigby even willing to resign to finally take responsibility, and Benson willing to and finally get a spine as both walk out. But luckily Pops covers for them and gets Mallard to forgive them anyway, as even he admits the park wouldn't be the same without them. And it's a really great insight of both Benson and Rigby, probably the two most opposite characters, letting themselves fundamentally relate and grow off of each other. It's just a good episode. Though another one of my favorite Benson moments comes from Brilliant Century Dark Crisis Special. Maybe Regular Show's most over-the-top episode, and that's really saying something. Admittedly, Benson does pull off a move by forcing Mordecai and Rigby to get rid of a random castaway in the park instead of calling animal control or something. And if you watch Casual Geographic, you know much that's practically a death sentence. But it goes through the over-the-top anime plot as the Pleco businessmen join with the evil geese as the parkourers need to team with the baby ducks to stop them. Everyone else is super into joining the mecha form and fight off against the villains. But Benson though is the only one reluctant enough to join in on the nonsense, leading to maybe one of the show's funniest moments.
If it'll get rid of the bird...
But as the fight gets more anime and insane, Benson's the one who wants to forfeit the most and let the businessmen have their way and sell out with their identities.
Destroyed, Hyperduck.
Then it looks like you'll have to destroy us, because we'd rather die than have our likenesses turned into poorly made toys.
And is the one most confused and panicking at the situation, being so unfamiliar with it, and just wanting to get back to work. Even when they all inexplicably dress as Kick Patowski. Though eventually, Benson lightens up when put right in the action, feeling a sense of adrenaline and fun. Even when they're thoroughly beaten and about to give in, Benson is the one who ends up standing up for themselves after what he went through and refuses to let them sign that they'll die with dignity. But this inadvertently brings them victory by having the geese double cross the businessmen, allowing them to achieve victory at the cost of destroying the planet, which is literally never acknowledged after. With Benson even saying that was amazing and he's never felt more alive. This episode is so freaking insane it's hard to talk about, but Benson really showed his worth here. Being the doubter doesn't agree to the wackiness of the episode, eventually overcoming that and being pivotal to save the day. It's always a great use of Benson's character and subverts his established characterization to make his actions more impactful. Benson's a weird character in this cast because he feels so real. Like, really, he feels like a genuine person you can meet in real life much more than any other character. And it could be the point, he's the down-to-earth guy to counteract all the craziness in an episode. But the show really did a lot to flesh him out, more than they needed, and make him more than just the angry boss stereotype. Even from the early episodes, there were plenty of episodes and moments where they showed there was more than just being an angry boss, showing times where he was reasonable and helpful. He's not angry for no reason, he's had life experiences and constant stress and annoyances in his work that put him so easily on the edge. But I don't consider Benson to be defined by his anger, from his past being very well explained and introduced, to the amount of nuances he can get throughout the episodes, and be the surprising key to the victory at the end of it. There's so much more to him than you would expect. And I'd argue got the most development, lore, and growth than all of the other characters, only found by someone like Rigby, but their characterization and growth only really became evident by season 7, and still went back and forth. If you pay attention, you can really notice how Benson changed throughout the series, being a strict grumpy boss to more of a pathetic underdog molded by his past choices, and determined to make the most out of his current occupation. You can really see how his past affected him, from his dreams of being a drummer, dashed by who he considers to be his friends, who've replaced and roared him out of history, to wasting his youth playing games and determined to help others not fall into the traps he did. For all his faults and the amount of times he's taken his anger out on a main duo, it's for a purpose. He wants to help them most of the time. He wants to make them more responsible and not end up like he did. And he has such dedication to a job that seems so insignificant that he treats it like it's the most important thing in his life. His dedication to keep the park well managed is evident in all of his appearances. Hell, in the Dome Experiment special, his main goal wasn't to go get out of the dome, but just to prove he didn't get an email date wrong.
Tell us right now! Tell us! The email. Admit to everyone that you changed the date. Yeah, I changed the date. So I was right, everyone!
Even to the point where the rest of the cast appreciate everything he's done for it and to them. And it looks like Benson still manages to run the park far into the future because it's really the culmination of all his efforts and his biggest source of pride. Benson truly does have a drive throughout all of his appearances, which makes him so different than practically every other character, and that to me makes him so much more compelling. It makes him an underdog, especially when life puts him down so much, or even his own employees. When Benson's portrayed as an underdog in the story, the responsible guy everyone steps over, it makes his achievements and victories so much more impactful and much happier. And let's be honest, for how angry he gets, what he has to put up with, it's more than justified. Sure, his anger get the best of him, but that's only human. Everyone will mess up. But for the most part, he'll try and make it up and it's respectable. He's so much more than the angry boss stereotype, and I'm so happy the crew want to evolve his character more than that. He has a ton of layers and levels of complexity in his determination, personality, past, and it makes for actually a pretty nuanced character who can more than lead an episode and make it great in the process. He deserves far more appreciation and love for who he is. In fact, I'd really say he's my favorite character, and some of my favorite moments from the series. Hell, tell me what you think. Do you agree that Benson is really Regular Show's most underrated character and deserves far more respect inside and outside of the show? You know, if I run out of characters to make advanced time analysis on, do I dare make Regular Show analysis? Maybe.
Dude, what the heck, man?
I know, right? Working at the park blows.
I guess we'll never understand that guy.
When are you two gonna learn that your actions have consequences?